as a social contract should be based on Allah's pleasure. We simply say that our purpose is to maximize Allah's pleasure. We need to change the red lines of the people in Pakistan. Is that the love of the Prophet Muhammad and Islam is very, very strong. What is lacking is the understanding of Islam as in a more completer way.
They did the survey and the results were astonishing. They said maybe more than 70%, 80% people, they want Sharia. They don't know what this means.
But I always say the problem in the Muslim world is that Islam is part of our lives. I always like to say like this, and everyone's like, what? Islam is part of our lives is the problem? Are you Muslim?
This became part of the social contract that we will not go to hell. Yes, we will go to hell, but only for a few days. Man raghiba sunnati falaysa minni. I mean, whoever abandons my sunnah is not from this ummah, not from me. I'm not from this ummah.
So you actually can improve society. You don't have to wait for Jesus. Muslims say, we can't improve the world. The world will not improve until the Mahdi comes.
Allama Iqbal. He used to say that we have to reject Mahdi. But anyway, this is another extreme.
Postmodernism says that there is no such thing as a grand narrative anymore. All grand narratives are wrong or unknowable. But then Islam would be a grand narrative, as they call it. And also even understanding the point of an Islamic system. The point of Islamic system is not just that we have laws.
Young guy, I met him. He even said that, it's very difficult for me to pray 5 times. So please don't judge me on that, because la yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. So why there's so much, obsession about the civilization Islam? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Revival Experience. आज हमारे गेस्ट हैं, स्पेशल गेस्ट हैं. आप पहले भी इनको जो है हमारे चैनल पे देख चुके हैं. एक पॉडकास्ट हमारा इनके साथ पहले भी हुआ था. शेख अब्दुल्ला अंदलूसी अभी भी पाकिस्तान में हैं. काफ़ी लंबा टूर था इनका, तो इनसे इनके टूर के बारे में भी पूछेंगे और इसके अलावा कुछ और इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्कशंस भी हैं जो इस पॉडकास्ट में होंगी. तो वेलकम शेख अब्दुल्ला अंदलूसी.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu feekum for having me.
So it's been a long tour here in Pakistan.
Yes, longer than I expected. 2 months now, pretty much. I think by the time I returned back, it'd probably be about 2 months and a half back when I returned back to UK. So yes, subhanAllah, a very amazing trip, full of twists and turns, surprises.
Great memories.
Oh yeah, definitely memorable. I got to tell you that, subhanAllah. So yeah, I haven't explored all of Pakistan. I've just been to.
You have been to north, right? Yeah, you have visited.
I went as far as Naran, Shukran, and Mansehra. This is mountain hiking.
Yes.
Then I went all the way west to Peshawar.
Great.
The meat's very nice in Peshawar, actually.
That's the meat capital of Pakistan.
yes. And Lahore to the east. So that's about it. So I've only been basically in the north of Pakistan generally. Didn't have the opportunity to go to Karachi
or southern Punjab.
Or southern Punjab. So inshallah, maybe next time.
So how do you find the people here, the demography, and especially your subject, like you have been to other Islamic countries, right? You have been to
mostly Arab
countries.
This
Turkey
is my first.
As well. Turkey?
Not yet. Inshallah, later on this year, perhaps.
Okay.
Inshallah, this is my first non-Arab Muslim country I've been to.
Okay, great.
So yeah, hospitality has been amazing. People here are more humble, and yeah, it's just very down to earth, very nice. Very food's very amazing, very tasty. Have my fill. Yeah, subhanAllah.
When we talk about like people of Pakistan and their connection with Islam, like most of the visitors, they say that the Pakistani people, they have a very strong connection with Islam. Their culture, I think Islam is really intertwined in their culture as well as in their way of living. More than any other nation. Of course, in Arab countries, you can find similar kind of thing, though things are shifting there drastically in the last decade or so. But as compared to other countries, like where we can see that the cultural pressure is gone, and that's why these liberal values and the liberal ideals, they have been, they have been celebrated quite openly in these countries. Here in Pakistan, we see still that liberals and seculars they argue and they complain that still a lot of pressure is there. So how did you find it? I mean, from this perspective.
Well, many Muslim countries have a strong love of Islam, but in Pakistan, it really it's subhanallah. I think there's a good maybe Urdu word to describe the passion and zeal for Islam. Must.
Yes,
right?
must.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that kind of in a way encapsulates what I've seen the love of Islam. I mean, I noted I think maybe over a decade ago that the killing of a politician, Salman Taseer, by his own bodyguard for simply wanting to change or amend the blasphemy law in Pakistan, just for simply saying, not himself blaspheming against the Prophet Muhammad, but just to change the law, and he was shot. So, and he was praised as a hero in Pakistani society, even though I think he was executed by the state, but he was widely praised as a hero.
Yes.
And obviously, why I don't condone vigilante action, but I think that is indicative of the general mindset in Pakistan, is that the love of the Prophet Muhammad and Islam is very, very strong. But I feel that there is obviously what is lacking is the understanding of Islam as in a more complete way, the more holistic way.
Yes. So the emotional connection is very strong. It is somehow sometimes it is being used to exploit them as well. But this is a bit lacking, that this intellectual connection, or the more the connection based on knowledge. It is something that is not there, but of course things are shifting in the last decade or so. We can see because of this social media and other platforms that are available for them to understand the foundations of Deen. So things are changing, but of course it would take time till we reach that ideal situation where people they connect with Islam emotionally as well as intellectually. So this is lacking here for sure, and it is sometimes being used. I mean, this lack of intellectual connection is being used and exploited by certain people for their own gains. So yes, you're right about that.
It's about, you could put in a way, it's about, we need to change the red lines of the people. Any leader, even the most praised leader in Pakistan currently in leadership because of the recent war of India, so the head general, like Asim Munir, obviously his current name, but let's say if he was to go on public address and insult the Prophet Muhammad, no matter how powerful his position and no matter whatever medals you could say he would have won in this war with India, everyone would turn on him.
Yes.
Right? Everyone would turn on him. There's no such thing as these are. These leaders have superpowers and they can shoot lasers from their eyes, but the power is the people willing to obey. And if he was to say those things in public, not that he believes them, just simply saying that if he was to do that, just to show that it would be not non-controversial for everybody to rise up against him. Everyone would. So I'm saying that that shows that the issue is not one of, well, we might disagree with those in power, but what can we do? Say, well, actually, society has a red line. You just need to adjust it. With the love of the personality of the Prophet Muhammad, unfortunately, is greater than the love of the Sharia that he brought from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes, exactly.
The Prophet Muhammad actually cared more that people adhere to his Sharia than respect his persona. And I'll give you a narration.
This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says.
Yeah.
That Muhammad is not the Sharia. So he is a prophet. He brought you the Sharia. He practiced Sharia for you. But now you have to connect with Sharia and the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So exactly, I mean.
Well, I'll give you one. There was one incident. It was in Medina, and a Jewish man came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he had owed the Jewish man money, and he shook the Prophet Muhammad, pay me what you owe, pay me what you owe. Right, and so Umar was like seeing this. He was like, he wanted to do some very.
All of that is sword on standby.
Yeah. He was like, well, what? And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ turned to Umar and said, like, I didn't ask you, but to paraphrase, he didn't ask you to do any violence to this guy. Instead, you should have just instructed me to pay what I owe to him. So pay what I owe. So for the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, it was more important that the Sharia was applied than even respecting his persona. Because this guy, imagine shaking the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. It's like, for us, we would go, our veins would boil, you know? But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wanted, no, not violence against this guy, but rather the Sharia be applied and the money returned back to this guy. So this is where I think the red lines of the Muslims are misplaced. Right? If we had that love of the Prophet, that red line for the love of the Prophet, put also on the Sharia, then we would be in the correct state today. Exactly. Then we would have, even the rulers would say, yeah, of course, I will support Sharia all along, and we must fully establish it, and we must have a state where the national interest is the pleasure of Allah. That's our national interest, not any other self-interest.
This is a very important point. Yes, I remember back then when this incident happened, this killing of Salman Taseer. I wrote an article in a magazine, and the title was in Urdu "Tahaffuz Namus Ilahi," yani protecting the namus, the izzat, or the what you call the respect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the argument that I made there is that Prophet ﷺ is Allah's messenger, right? So we love Prophet ﷺ because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves him, and because he is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is another very important aspect here missing, that if we love Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, we also have to love Allah's Sharia, because Sharia also belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well as Prophet ﷺ. So the love of Prophet ﷺ is there, mashallah. Still, we can't argue about that. You know, it's just important that it is there in the society. But love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or love of His Sharia, where is that? So that's why I told in that article, I recommended to the religious factions here that there must be a movement for the namus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well, because nobody cares about that. And there was an incident not long ago when one of the political leaders here, they were doing blasphemy on Allah's injunctions, especially these instructions about the flogging of the adulterer. So she was making fun of this particular instruction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the hukam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there was no movement at all, and nobody stood up against that. In fact, that is also blasphemy. And the blasphemy law covers that as well, by the way. The blasphemy law here in Pakistan covers this aspect as well. If someone is doing blasphemy on on any hukam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or any verse of Quran, or even if he or she is ridiculing the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, is also included in the blasphemy law. But because of the awareness created by the scholars, by the ulama here, about the namus of Prophet ﷺ, the red lines are there. But here we can say that there is no awareness at all. So that's why when that political leader, a very famous political leader, she made this comment that this is barbaric. I mean, this hukam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mazallah barbaric. So this is also a blasphemy. But nobody stood up. Nobody even, took a notice of this. So that's the problem. That there's something wrong, something missing in the understanding, the general understanding of the religion in the society. So this is where you mentioned in the last podcast a very interesting terminology. It's a very interesting aspect that we should or we must think about, is the social contract of the society. We were discussing, those who have seen the last podcast, we were discussing that there is an intellectual revival or ideological revival in the Muslim world. We can see that, but somehow it is not being transforming into a collective action, the action that is needed, that is required. And you mentioned during that podcast is that it's because there are certain blockades, there are certain things, certain concepts that are blocking our way towards the collective action, and that's a part somehow is now a part of our social contract. So until we remove these blockades from the social contract, or we upgrade our social contract, this collective action won't be happening. So once we do that, you mentioned that this would naturally follow. Yeah. So just elaborate, because there we couldn't discuss this in detail. Just elaborate this a bit on this a bit more. Sure. What is the social contract of the society? And this is very interesting, that how can we understand or decipher the social contract of a society? Is it written somewhere? Is it could it be found somewhere in the society, written somewhere, or it is just there in the society? You have to decipher it. You have to deduce it from certain pointers. So this is where we have to discuss a bit more detail in that.
Yeah. So I just called it the social contract. So basically, society has, or rather every state usually has a constitution, a written constitution. This is what the laws are going to be, the basis for the laws. And then you have laws that are legislated based on the constitutional, in agreement to it or on top of it, basically. And in Pakistan, you have a highway code. So you have like, here's how you want to do, but seatbelt on and stay in your lane and so on. Yeah. But, and this is typical throughout the Muslim world, not just in Pakistan. I've seen it in every single Muslim country that I've been to so far. It's the same thing, which is, it's pretty much survival of the fittest. Do what, get to from A to B any way you can, preferably without crashing or scratching it or scraping anybody. So, there's what's written down on paper somewhere by some legal experts, what have you, and then there's what people actually do. Now, it's different from like, well, what people actually do. You mean like criminals? Said no, it's what society has agreed, expected. Like, okay, you know what? Because when I first arrived in Pakistan and going to the car, and I was like, okay, I put my seatbelt on, and they had already placed this insert into the buckle, so that the alarm on the car will go on. The seatbelt, the thing, seatbelt alarm.
I have one. By the way, I also have
one
that
as well. Yeah. I'm like, what's this? What's this? And like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to wear your seatbelt here. And it's like, what? Why? All right, like, is there for safety? Is there not the law? And so it's accepted that, oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal. No one's expected, like people don't do that there. And that's a social contract. It's a informal agreement, you could say, not written down anywhere. It's stored in the mind of everybody in society.
Mind and hearts of the
yes,
of
and it might not even reflect people's individual beliefs. So you might think, well, I actually do want to follow the highway code, but when I'm driving, no one else is following it, and it's getting dangerous, and I need to get to where I need to go. So I can't be polite or courteous, because if I do, oh, you go first, and whatever, you'll get there really, really slow. So then, okay, now I have to just do duck and dive and do all kinds of things to get there, and that's the general mindset. It's like, well, okay, we've all agreed now that this is how we're going to do it. So when there's an agreement, I call it a contract. So we have all socially agreed, even though individually, you might ask the vast majority of Pakistanis, do you want to see the Sharia implemented? Do you want the laws to be according to the Quran and Sunnah? The vast majority will say, yes, of course.
There have been surveys here, they say that the surveys, like the reputable organizations like Gallup survey, they said they did the survey and the results were astonishing. They said maybe more than 70%, 80% people, they want Sharia. straight away. I mean, they were asked, "You want Sharia?" Yes, we want Sharia. but people argue. Of course, the opponents, they argue that they don't know what this means.
But there's two issues there. One is the people will tell you we want it, but we don't know how to do or implement it because the leaders aren't implementing it, and if we go against them, they'll shoot us or arrest us. So we've all agreed to just be silent about it and internally hated the situation. But what can we do? That's what they say. So we've all agreed to be defeatist on this matter. That's the social contract. If you just flip this right, as I said, that's why I used the example. I used the hypothetical, fantasy example, just to show it could have been anyone in power, no matter, even if it was Ali Jinnah in power. If he was still alive and he was in power, and he himself blasphemed the Prophet Muhammad,
the whole society would be against him.
There wouldn't be ikhtilaf. There wouldn't be, but what can you do? He's in power. No, everybody, there would be mass uprisings, and his own bodyguards would kill him. That's what I'm talking about, is that everyone's agreed that, if anyone insults the Prophet Muhammad, we've all agreed that we'll get to this person even if we go to jail. We've all agreed that we're going to do this. And that is exactly what I'm talking about, which is that social contract. It's just accepted that we're defeatist and we should just be permissive, in essence, of that. The second problem is that Muslims generally are not, across the Muslim world, we're not educated on political fiqh. And in addition to this, I would also say, Islam is viewed as a part of our lives. And I always say this, I don't know if I said in the last podcast here, but I always say the problem in the Muslim world is that Islam is part of our lives. I always say like this, and everyone's like, what? Islam is part of our lives, the problem? Are you Muslim? Is he Muslim? I say, yes, the word is part of our lives, not our purpose in life.
Yes.
Right? And it's the way that Muslims are taught. They're taught, here's a checklist of things you have to do in life. A lot of it is, protect the family honor, don't bring shame. Find work, get married, have children, raise your children, then they can get married, they can have work and get married, and that just to continue existing, basically. Oh, and while you're doing this, pray 5 times a day, fast in Ramadan. If you can, be honest and truthful. But if society requires you not to, then Allah will understand. That is how most Muslims are taught Islam. And it's their parents, that's based on just what my parents have told me.
So they don't know the purpose behind what they're doing. I mean, they're doing it just because it's a practice in the society. It's like cultural norms. They're doing it and out of that. But there's another way to do it, is to understand the purpose and to align your actions with that purpose and to be vigilant about it all the time. Exactly, this is missing.
I mean, it's quite simply, when you understand that, also, like, let me detach that I was learned Islam from my parents. Let me just look at Islam. How do I know it's true? How do I know the Quran is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So then you study it and you look into that and then you come to yaqeen. Then you say, you're right. So if this is the message from the creator of the entire universe to humanity, then as a Muslim now, I must establish this across humanity. I must raise Allah's kalam to be the highest. Exactly. And when motivated by this, we say, okay, well, we need to now change society. And it's because the social contract does not have Islam as the purpose in life, but just simply a part of the society. Therefore, it's expected that it will always remain a part in its box, inside a box. And also even understanding the point of an Islamic system. The point of an Islamic system is not just that we have laws. It's what is actually the national interest, quote unquote, of the society. So what are we actually aiming to do, not just amongst ourselves, but also across the world? Islam is a world project. It's not simply just oh, just make sure that in the constitution somewhere you just have a few articles about some punishments for the hudud, and that's about it. No, it's not about punishing the thief by cutting the hand. It's about solving poverty, protecting people's property rights. That's the.
They call them Maqasid al-Sharia. All the Sharia, the intentions of Sharia, they have a purpose to fulfill. And in order for us to understand that purpose would help us to do it in a proper way. I mean, all these actions, they're meant to serve certain purpose, right? So this is exactly as you were saying, to solve the problems of the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a higher purpose. So yes, we need to have these laws, but it's not just, okay, now we have these laws, we just relax and whatever. No, this is just one part of, we have a vision of the world. Islam has a vision of the world. It's the world lives according to its fitrah, right? Because if humans don't live according to their fitrah, an environment that supports and reinforces their fitrah and is synchronized with their fitrah, then they live miserable lives. Then they live in oppression, and they live with lack of guidance. And even following guidance is hard to do, because society is stopping you from doing, or pushing you, or pressuring you. Just like even in the Muslim world, you might think, well, if we're a conservative society, where's the issue and problems? Well, just going about making money and just trying to survive, you have to lie and cheat and not honor your promises and things like this. That's a problem. And people say, but what can you do? This is how we have to live here. So society is pressuring you to, lying is a pretty big issue, right? People say, some scholars have said that you can't lie and be a Muslim at the same time. Or at least at the moment you're lying, you're not a Muslim.
This is among the kabair of, all scholars agree, this is among the kabair.
Yeah, the major sins, yeah.
Yes.
And so, but if it's normalized, and also things like bribery is normalized. The police arrest you, they say they are threatening to arrest you unless you give them some money, and you say, darura, necessity, I have to give them bribes. It's haram. And the problem is because everyone or most people will give a bribe, that the police continue to do it, right? And also that they don't complain because they know they won't go anywhere, they think. So this is a thing that society either is dominated by Islam as its purpose, or it has something that is not Islam as its purpose. It might allow a place for Islam in a small little box for the ibadah or personal ibadah actions, but the actual application of Islam completely, which involves mercy to mankind, which involves eliminating injustice and oppression to us, that this oppression makes people do bad things as well. This, they say, no, there's some other kind of deen will be in charge of that. And the word deen doesn't refer to your spiritual beliefs only. Deen is way of life. So either your way of life is Islam, or if you say it's a mix of Islam and something else, then really it's just something else. I'm not doing mass takfir because the Muslim world we're in a state of jahili, we don't know any better, and there's Qadr bil Jab. But I'm simply pointing out that when people say, and you hear this, people say there's a clash between religion and culture, religion and culture, and say there's no separate words for these in the Arabic language. I don't know, people say thaqafa and so on, but it's actually one and the same thing. It's deen. Deen is what you believe you should do, what you are obliged to do. If anything you think that you're obliged to do is not from Islam, then that's a different deen. And as you know, I'll just finish this up. The origin of the word deen is, in all Semitic languages, is from dayin, meaning what is owed. And that's why Yom ad-Din is the day that people will get what is owed.
Yes.
So,
yes, great. There's very interesting insight into this problem, that the social contract at the moment is not based on Islam as a purpose. Their purpose is something else, maybe material well-being or survival or whatever.
Just continuing to exist.
Just continue to exist. That would be an interesting research exercise, by the way, those who are listening, to decipher and to deduce the social contract of each and every Muslim country in the world, or even the non-Muslim countries. it will be interesting. It will be an interesting research project to exactly decipher. Generically, we have discussed, but to know exactly what is the social contract of a nation, of a society, like for example, Pakistani society. If we say that what is the current social contract of Pakistani society, one thing is very clear: we have the love of Prophet ﷺ. It is written, engraved in blood in the social contract. But there are other bad things as well, which are part of the social contract. So it would be an interesting research exercise to exactly know what is the social contract. But then, as you mentioned, there is another social contract of any society that is a kind of an ambition, an ideal social contract. So this is where we need to maybe draft that ideal social contract, how we should live. We should live in the society, and of course, we have the foundations of that in Quran and Sunnah, and we have the practice of that in the lives of Prophet ﷺ and the companion, the Sahaba. But it would be an interesting exercise to exactly decipher what is the Islamic social contract, the ideal Islamic social contract, so that we could know that, okay, this is the ambition, and this is where we have to go, and we have to find ways how we can go from here to that place. So it's an interesting, insight into this from the concept that you have just explained, that every society has two social contracts. One social contract is what is currently applied, currently in place, and there is another social contract with the maybe founding fathers of the nation, or the elders of the nation. They think, and they have in place in their mind, so they want this to be implemented across the nation. So how do you see this notion?
Basically, we as Muslims need to have a vision of what society we need to create, and we need details, not just general abstracts like what the Muslim Brotherhood used to say, the Quran is our constitution. It's like, well, the Quran isn't a constitution. It's the basis for a constitution,
yes,
as it's a basis for everything else in our lives. But it's not. The book is not a constitution. So it's a nice slogan, but details. I mean, how do we distribute lands which are not being used for agriculture? How do we have an investment system that doesn't require, that doesn't use riba, it's not based on riba? How do we manage a monetary system for the means of transaction? Details, specific details, as well as also things even like discussing adab and akhlaq. And I know everyone discusses it, but one of the things I've seen when Muslims break it is they believe that, well, I must follow adab and akhlaq unless I don't like the Muslim I'm dealing with. It's like, no, that's not, there's no exception, or unless I think he's doing nifaq, or there's no exception to the rules.
Yes.
As long as someone's Muslim, you are obliged to behave to him in this way. He has obligation on you, and so on. So people just invent their own exceptions to the rules, and other such things like, which is typical. So you have many books that say, especially, obey the Emir. This is from Islam, obey the Emir. I'm not referring to modern day leaders. I'm just referring to, in the Islamic system, the obey the Emir unless you're ordered to do something that's sinful. But we don't have fiqh books on, modern day fiqh books on what does a sinful order look like.
Yes.
We're like, we are told to arrest a person and torture him. You just obey. If the leader says, "Oh, that's a bad person, trust me, just do it," say, "Well, actually, I don't know if this person's bad. I can't just trust you. Sure, I can apprehend him and take him to the court." And then the whole point of a court is that, especially if he just says, "I'm innocent," then I'll say, "Okay, I'm not going to torture him or what have you. Torture is haram anyway. But I'm going to just I can take him and escort him to the court, and then he'll have his trial. And then if he's found guilty and he's breached the hudud in some way or some law that requires ta'zir, then yes, there's a punishment after we've looked at the evidences. But I can't just unilaterally be the executioner or the punisher. Why don't our soldiers be taught that, and our policemen taught that, right? So, to put it simply, to answer your question, the main thing is, as a social contract should be based on Allah's pleasure. We simply say that our purpose is to maximize Allah's pleasure, and as an ideal, which is unreachable, but that's the point of an ideal, is that if it's unreachable, you always strive towards improving. We want to attain the perfect pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing the maximum amount possible that we could do so. We never attain that ihsan, reaching excellence. We'll never be able to attain it, but that's the point. It's a great ideal that we set. So we're always improving, always maximizing. How can I invest in a type of awqaf, different awqaf that can look after people's medical needs, and especially the poor, make sure they have access to this. Maybe I'm going to invest in a cancer treatment that can cure millions of people, not just Muslims, not Muslims, because we're meant to be a mercy to the mankind. The Prophet Muhammad was said was a mercy to mankind. Yes. So, and imagine the thawab you can get from inventing a cure for cancers and things like this. Multiplying or investing into a research institution, medical or scientific one, that itself produces multiple cures for different diseases. Imagine the thawab. And I often say that the Islamic vision turns Muslims into thawab capitalists. Right? Thawab capitalists, we want to maximize. We are greedy for that thawab. We want to maximize and see how to. So
So this is what Allah says: compete with each other for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the very basis. This should be the very basis of an Islamic society. And it was there, like during the times of Prophet ﷺ, and after that, during the time of like Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. There are stories like people, they used to compete in good deeds. Like they have actual competition. That someone is fasting like 2 days a week, and someone would say, no, I would fast more than that. Or if someone is doing charity, and someone other would say, I would do more than that to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the competition was there, but it was there for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the ideal, like the society that we want to envisage, and this is where the problem is.
Yes, and I mean, I've spent 2 months here, and although it's obviously not the same as someone that has lived here for years, and I've not seen society from every point of view, because there's you could say the more working classes that survive on much less per day, and there's different classes and so on and so forth. And obviously I haven't obviously seen their point of view, although I've met many of them, had great conversations with them, and made some good friends. So my understanding is limited, but I have seen quite a few things which I've seen elsewhere in the Muslim world, and it's typical things like people coming very not on time to when they promised, people changing their contracts.
This is for sure a social contract.
Yes,
Pakistanis, yes. Never reach on time. Always 1 hour late, maybe at least.
People agreeing something and then later on changing the agreement, saying, "Oh, well, this is what we're going to do it this way," or what have you. Getting into arguments over everything because it's viewed as a competition of wills, of like my social standing versus your social standing. Even if the person's at fault, they must argue to protect their honor or what have you. This happened to me in Peshawar. I went to an ATM, put my card in, the machine basically froze and kept my card. I said, all right, okay. So alhamdulillah, the bank is right next to it, it's open. I went in, could you just get my card out? And they went to have a look. They only did a very quick look. Well, this is me making Husn al-Dhan here. They just did a quick look. And the guy came back and said, there's no card in the machine. I'm like, no, I put the card there and I didn't imagine it. And there was a whole argument where they said, maybe it's in your wallet. I say, no, it's not in my wallet. I pretty much know. And then they got everyone to insist to me, everyone telling me, no, there's no card in the machine. And then we had to go on the camera. I say, okay, look on the camera. And they looked on the camera. And they went through it and they looked the whole thing. And they see card goes in, and they see it, and my card's like, it's a bright color, so you can see it on the camera. Card goes in, I'm there, card doesn't come out, and then you see then you fast forward, you just see the manager come in, so the card goes in, it never comes out. And they still watched it, and they looked at me. It's like, yeah, but card's not in the machine, sir. I said, must be a magic machine.
Yeah, it's a magic
Sihr. The machine is doing sihr. Right? I didn't know if sometimes when I get a little bit heated, some Arabic comes out, and I was like, this is hada sihr. What is this? And I think there is a word sihr in they understand this word. Yeah.
Yes.
So eventually I forced them. I'm going to call the police. This is, I've heard of people going into banks and robbing banks. I've never heard of a person going to a bank robbing him. Right? Yes. Yeah, and then eventually they went to the machine, had a look, and they found the card magically, and they gave it back to me. And I say, you see, did I imagine this? So what should have happened is they look at the machine properly, because they think, my customer wouldn't be lying about this. Just wants their card back. Where's the scam? Right, and they would just look at the card, look at the machine properly, and only if they really looked at every possible.
The ownership of responsibility is the problem here. People like to do whoever is responsible for something, they don't own it fully. I mean, they do it like for the sake of doing it.
The bare minimum, right? The view is the bare minimum, and this is the issue. So I've seen all these things, and then people compare to the West seems to be they're very time efficient. It's about professionalism is about being efficient at your job, focusing and doing the job almost like you're a robot, to that level of efficiency. Yeah. Why that? Why not us like this? And it's very simple. It's because going back to what I said before, we lack purpose, right? And when you asked about social contracts of other countries, and I'll be very quick. I know I've been rambling on, so I do apologize. But in the West, in most Western countries, the vast majority of them, they have roughly the same aqidah behind their social contract. The aqidah is simply this: that there is basically only this life that we know about. There is nothing greater or more important than the human individual.
Yes.
Yeah? So not society, not culture, not religion, not God. The human individual is the most important. They own themselves, so they are the property of themselves. No one else, they're no one else's property, and they're not God's property. And the purpose in life is to maximize the pleasure of the individual, to maximize pleasure. And then once they had this purpose, they saw, okay, guys, so we're going to have a highway code. And the highway code, if we all follow it, we all get to where we're going quicker and safely. Because being in accidents is painful and death is end of your life. And that goes against our purpose.
Yeah. So you have to avoid pain and maximize pleasure. So this is something that is understood by all of these people. That's why they follow the law.
Because can we all agree this is our purpose? Is to maximize. It's not to just exist. It's we're going to maximize pleasure and minimize pain for human society and for all human individuals. And that makes they start to organize all of society and everything to be incredibly efficient at achieving this aqidah, because they have one that directs them and their affairs. That's why they say we implement democracy, because democracy is the best system to protect us against crazy, random, authoritarian rulers. Okay, Trump notwithstanding, but that's why they don't like autocratic tyrants, or they won't tolerate it, because they say, well, the autocratic tyrant makes everyone's lives miserable, because you're dancing on thin ice. You're tiptoeing on thin ice all the time. That's a very miserable way to live. And our purpose in life is maximizing pleasure, minimizing pain. So we don't want dictators. The best protection against this is a type of democracy and a mixed system. Anyway, so everything they do is about fulfilling this aqidah, including why punctuality, why professionalism. Quite simply because if you're professional at your job, then you're very efficient. You can maximize the greatest pleasure and minimize pain for the services you provide. You're at the peak, because you have to maximize. It means you have to aim to that perfection. And also, when you have a reputation for being efficient, your value rises in society. So, and that gives you more options in society to get more money and to maximize your pleasure. So everything is coordinated.
This is interesting. So in that society, as you mentioned, very interesting, very important thing, that if you are fulfilling this purpose, your value in the society increases. And this is a kind of motivation for everyone to do. To follow this path. Now, talking about the Muslim societies. Okay, this is clearly understandable now that their social contract. This is the fundamental principle of the social contract. But if we see the Muslim world, they don't really care about this world. That's why the world is in shackles. This world, all the systems are deteriorating and they are ruptured. What's the underlying principle here? That only the hereafter is important, the other life is important, and this life is not important at all? Is this the important clause in the social contract that is, destroying this world of theirs?
Well, that's one of the. Remember, I talked about blockages.
Yes.
Right. So the Muslim world, we have an Aqidah, we have the Quran, we have access to the Sunnah. Why are we not just directing everything and making our purpose in life the maximization of Allah's pleasure, right? And minimizing of His anger upon us. So why are we not aiming for that? And the reason is because of blockages, concepts or ideas that don't come from Islam, but they put a cap on the implementation.
Yeah, this is epistemic blockade, as I put it.
Yes. So I'll just put it like this, because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ prophesied that we would follow the ways of the Jews and Christians before us, the same peoples. So up until the 1100s, the 12th century, the Christian social contract, or one of their understandings in their social contract was this. And it's based on interpretations of the Bible, I think pretty strong ones. So the devil is the ruler of this world. That's actually literally written in one of the what they call the New Testament. It's not Jesus' teachings, we would say, but anyway. So this world is evil, it's a bad place, it's corrupt, there's no way of redeeming it. All you can do is redeem the souls of Christians and look after their needs in terms of their spiritual needs. And so like a shepherd guarding the flock from the wolves, you can't improve their situation, you can just protect them from the wolves, that's it. So the churches, which was the Catholic Church at the time, which was the vast majority, the biggest church, its role was simply to protect the flock of sheep against the wolves, and making sure that everyone dies a believer and believing in Jesus and God and the church, and until the time that Jesus will return, and He will make the world a good place. This was their belief until 1100s. Then something changed. Ironically, they encountered us, the Muslims, and they started to encounter our books, Greek philosophy, our translations of it, as well as books written by Muslims on technology, science, chemistry, medicine. And our technological superiority, our improvements in our life, very comfortable life that we lived. And this shocked them, and they also encountered Muslim adab and akhlaq. Many monks were going to Egypt, going to Baghdad, the seat of the caliphate, and they were amazed, like, wow, you can just leave like a bag of gold, drop on the floor, and you could come back a month later and it would still be there. Like no one steals. He was amazed. They're honest people, and this shocked them because they thought, well, we are the ones who received the true revelation. These are infidels. How come they're behaving better than us? Right? Ironically, it was a switch around compared to today. So they discovered that, wait a second, so you actually can improve society. You don't have to wait for Jesus. It's possible if you improve the material conditions of society, people improve. And the example was given that rich people tend to be more refined in their manners than a poor person. So if you make everybody richer, everyone behaves better. And suddenly the idea of progress was born in the West from us. In a way, they took it from us, and that radically change our society. Don't wait for Jesus. Improve society now. Ironically, Muslims say we can't improve the world. The world will not improve until the Mahdi comes and Isa after him.
Interesting.
So just sit back and wait. Guard your souls as much as possible, and wait for that.
So this is
it's been a complete switch around.
This is one of the biggest blockades. It has been for the Christians. It has been for the Jews as well, as they say that Jews, they were also looking for this Messiah to come. But when this Theodor Herzl and these people, when they said, it is one of the scholars who is well versed in the Jewish literature and Jewish religious literature. He told me that this was actually discussed in those initial meetings, the Jewish Congress, that the Messiah will come when it will come, but we need to figure out ways how we can fix our things ourselves. So this is a kind of a blockade, one of the biggest blockades that is preventing us from doing anything good for this world.
Well, up until Theodor Herzl, even a little bit after him, the majority religious Jewish opinion, the vast majority of all their ulama, if you can call it that, was that we are in a state of divine punishment by God, exile from Palestine, and only if we work on ourselves, improve ourselves as individuals by being good Jews, then when we are worthy, we make ourselves worthy, God will send the Messiah and he will make a paradise on earth, and everyone, including the Gentiles, the non-Jews, will follow. That was the majority Jewish opinion, the vast majority Jewish opinion. The first Zionists, Theodor Herzl and so on, were atheists, and for them it was just a racial concept, and they said, no, we're gonna try to go back now and establish a Jewish state now. And funnily enough, when that position gained a little bit more popularity amongst Jews, and they worked for that, they got their state.
Yes, in 50 years, they say, from the first Jewish Congress to the establishment of the state, 1948, in 50 years, they changed the whole situation, and they got their homeland in the Holy Land. So this is interesting. This is very important. The great scholar here in Pakistan, everybody knows him, Allama Iqbal. His analysis was also the same. He mentioned 4 or 5 concepts that are really preventing Muslims from reaching their true potential, and among them was the concept of Mahdi. He used to say that we have to reject Mahdi. But anyway, this is another extreme. But the argument about this is that these concepts of Messiah and the Mahdi, they give the hope as well in distress situations, in difficult situations. So this hope can get societies go. I mean, they help societies in surviving the difficult circumstances. And this has been the case with Jews. So they have seen worse days, and because of that, this hope that someone would come and fix everything gave them the energy. So this is another side of it. I want you to comment on that. I mean, this hope is also something necessary.
Well, I mean, basically, it's more like there's, we're told about things happening in the end times, right? And we don't know how long the end times will be in terms of, because the Prophet Muhammad said that the end times, from now to his point in time to when it's going to come is like close between 2 fingers. But what is that in the view of the times in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So that's 1,400 years. We don't know how like hundreds, maybe even not a millennium, not 1,000 years, because we don't know what is close. If we consider that human history could have been 500,000 years, could have been 1 million years. So a very small period of time, 2 fingers, compared to 1 million years, could be a couple thousand years. So we don't know. The point is this, that for us, we're told of this so that when we start to see these events happen, we know what to do. That's why we're told these things. But it's not to be used as an excuse to do nothing. Heck, there's even a hadith that says if it is the end time is happening,
Yeah, it's happening.
right? And
Yes.
while you're planting a tree, finish planting.
Yeah, finish planting the tree. Yes. So this is very, very interesting hadith, and you're right that this has been the case in the Muslim world at the moment, especially in Pakistan as well. The last 2 decades or so, this issue has been discussed a lot. The coming of the Dajjal and the end times and the second coming of Isa alayhi salam and the Mahdi and all these things, and this has created this inaction and atmosphere of inaction and laziness. And this is true. And Allama Iqbal, rahmatullah, he used to say the same thing. He said this concept that they will come and they will fix things and they will they will solve the problems of the ummah. It was there with the companions as well, but it impacted them in a different way. So there's in one of his piece of poetry, he says that Jabr Khalid Alam Barham Sanad. He said the Khalid bin Walid, he also knew these ahadith that the Persians and Romans would be conquered. And he also knew the hadith that the Constantinople would be conquered. But how did this impacted him? He said, why not? It is by my hands.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a wall that is already and this is the wall that is only going to be broken. So why not by my hands? Why don't I get this privilege to be that person through whom's hands this would happen? But this impacts us differently now because once we hear these things or understand these things that this would happen, the world will become will come under the Islamic rule. We say, okay, if this is going to happen, then why should we do anything? So he said the concept is the same, but it impacts the way it impacts the people. It is the interpretation of that concept. The interpretation of that concept, if it is wrong, it's going to put you to sleep. But if that interpretation is right, it will make you the force to be reckoned with, the force that cannot be subdued. So this is exactly what we were discussing, that the social contract must include all these right concepts, all these concepts which are powerful concepts that can lead to individual and collective action. But this is not the case at the moment. The moment, but with the social contract that we have, has this thing, engraved in it, that Messiah, or not Messiah, Mahdi will come and Isa Islam will come, and they would fix all the problems. So we have outsourced everything to them. So
and also a misunderstanding of Qadr, right? That's a big thing. The misunderstanding of Allah's Qadr and how we relate to that is a major issue.
This is another second important thing.
Yes.
The Qadr, the issue of Qadr. How we
Because people
understand
used to say Allah's, but no one would say my rizq is fixed by Allah, so I'll stay at home and I'll just get it. And it's like, well, no one would do that, because Allah could have willed, Allah could have decreed from before the beginning of the universe that this person would be lazy, they wouldn't do any work, and so they're going to be poor, right? And the rizq is fixed for you, you're going to be poor. So you don't know Allah's rizq for you.
You don't know whatever is written in the divine book, in the book of Qadr. So you don't know about this. So how you are extrapolating and trying to deduce these things from them. Exactly.
Exactly. So the question is, really, yes, we are discovering Allah's Qadr as we are and Qadr as we go through time. But are you going to, my question to any Muslim is, are you going to discover that what was decreed for you was that you were going to be stupid and then not achieve much? Or are you going to discover that you were clever and that you achieved a lot? So what are we going to discover? And as Umar, he amazingly dealt with this, and I thought, why is this not enough to really explain this? When he was Caliph and he was going to go to Syria, and there was a plague.
There was a plague
in Syria, so he cancelled the trip.
Yep.
And another Sahaba came up to him and said, are you running away from Allah's Qadr? And he goes, I'm running from Allah's Qadr to Allah's Qadr.
Yes.
So, I'm wanting from Allah's decree to what Allah has decreed. So this is a major issue, and I think I'll finish off with saying there is not a faction in society that also has blockages. They are what are called the non-religious faction. Now, these might be Muslim in name, maybe they actually are Muslim, but they think that they have, like everyone else in society, they have a very limited understanding of Islamic political fiqh, economics, and what have you. They don't know much about it as the rest of society does, as the religious faction or bloc does, because it's just not taught. So, nor has creative solutions been thought about of how to apply it using modern technology. That's the most important thing. So they think Islam's impractical. So they'll say, so you could go to many of these what you call secularists who might be Muslim and might be even praying 5 times a day and doing siyam and all this stuff.
Yeah, there are many secular Muslims, of course. Yes.
And when you say, well, like we need to establish the Sharia of Allah, they'll say, look, it's a great ideal. I wish we were in a world where it would be practical to do so. But they'll say it is hikmah to not implement it because we can't implement it at the moment, right? Or maybe never. Maybe back then, great. Not now. The world has changed. It's different, and so on. We won't be able to compete. It's a backward thing. Even though I respect the laws, and maybe they were great for their initial time, they'll bring up any excuse to make it make sense to themselves. It was maybe for back then, or maybe we can do a very more wild ijtihad where we just say the principles of justice and mercy is desired. So, and we will interpret that in a new way today with new laws and new ahkam, not just related to what we think is justice without taking the actual specific commandments. So to those people, they think it's not practical because they don't know it actually any better. And yes, the religious guys would say, some of the ones who are more uncompromising would say, it doesn't matter if it's unpractical, we have to do it anyway. And they say, but Islam says that we must be wise, and this is it's a fight between, they're both ignorant, right? But the ones who are uncompromising but are ignorant, and and say we must apply it, even if we don't know how to apply it properly, let's just do it. And other ones who say that it's not practical, they're both ignorant on the details and how to apply it. And that's the argument that you see today, the fight. So I thought, look, if we were to campaign and advance into society, guys, look, here's what the Sharia looks like, and here's all the creative solutions that the Sharia can do that would make a superior society. I've made it a challenge on myself to have debates, discussions, and lectures to non-Muslims to show it is, whether you think that Islam is from Allah or not, subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Sharia is superior in these things.
Yes.
And I've actually won debates with non-Muslim majority audiences where they ask the audience to vote before the debate what they think, and they ask the audience to vote after the debate, and the winner is the one who's changed the most minds. I won a debate on an audience that actually had no Muslims in it, on English law versus Sharia law, which one is better.
Of course, we will tag that inshallah in the description.
Yeah, the YouTube video is up. The guys asked not to be filmed, so what we did is we got all the audios and we just took a picture of the empty seats with the name cards on it. But you can hear everything exactly that happened because they didn't want to be filmed on it. But just to show that if you're able to, Muslims should be able to study the Sharia so much that they could explain why it's superior than capitalism or liberalism or communism. If they can do that, then they have an argument against that secular faction. They can actually convince them. Actually, look, it's actually superior and it's more practical and it's easy and it solves all these problems, as well as educating the religious faction to say, look, here's actually what we're meant to be implementing and doing. So here's the vision of society that we envision with the minutest details elaborated.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the pragmatic test, they call it, is the best test to check anything, but truthfulness of any concept. We have, the Sharia has been implemented across different parts of the world. We have the consequences of that studied and well documented. We can bring that to the table. Also, we have now the implementation of the Western ideals and Western concepts. And we have a lot of, like, especially now, we're living in a world that we have all the statistics and all the data now to confirm or to check or to explain to the world that how these concepts have led to a society which has many flaws in it, and how an Islamic concept, Islamic Sharia, the society based on a law or legal framework based on Sharia can generate a better society. I mean, it is doable. It's not that difficult to do now, especially at the moment when there are many voices, even in the West, who are condemning the Western ideals and idols. So we are like living in very interesting times where with the critique that they call it, the postmodern critique, has been developed of all the concepts, all the ideologies of the West. So they have made our life very easy now in this regard, and this is the right time to pitch that in this way, so that we can, establish the superiority of Sharia, at least at the intellectual level.
I would advise that postmodern critique is like having a dispute with your neighbor and using a nuclear weapon on him. You'll get caught in the blast too. The postmodernism has been used in the West to different camps to fight each other.
Yeah.
Because postmodernism denies meaning. It says that all meaning is subjective and constructive, and so it's useful.
No
people use it as a weapon against each other, but they don't realize that it's a weapon against you
them
too.
As well. Yes.
So postmodernism says that there is no such thing as a grand narrative anymore. All grand narratives are wrong or unknowable. But then Islam would be a grand narrative, as they call it. So
what I was saying is that we can use many of the arguments. Of course, we have to use them carefully, as you rightly said, because it is just a destructive force. They have just deconstruct. They have to just deconstruct everything. They're not going to construct anything useful out of it.
Right.
But of course, as Muslims, we have to be careful. But what I'm saying is that we can find many things from their critique as well that can help us to solidify our positions against the Western ideals.
I consider the West to be like a petri dish, a laboratory. It's like, here's what happens when humans are not guided. Here's what they do, and look at the social situation, the problems they have, the depression, the rise of antidepressant tablets becoming normal. Medication for depression is normal there, and it's even then it doesn't really make you happy. It can't make you happy. But I was just thinking back, because some people might say, hearing this, and they'll say, Abdullah, are you saying that part of our advocacy for Islam is not just according to Quran Sunnah, that because it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, showing, it's the miraculous nature of the Quran and its origin. You're saying that we also have to argue from this practical basis, like where's the basis for this in the Prophet's method, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And it's like, well, there is. One example, a man comes to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and say, he's a young man, can I have permission to do zina? Okay. So what did the Prophet Muhammad respond? Did he say, "Aib alayk, how dare you? Allah has prohibited this on you. How can you do this? This is, haram alayk, like this is prohibited for you to do this." No, hikmah. He said, "Would you like it for me to make it halal for your mother to do zina?" And the man said, "No." So then how could I make it halal for you? So to paraphrase the narration, so see how he used hikmah. He said that, don't you see the wisdom, at least? Yes, it's prohibited from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's sufficient that we should avoid it. But don't you see the wisdom of it? Right.
Exactly.
So
we can say that, okay, that argument would be universal, and that should stay with us, that this is the basis of the totalness of deen. But of course, it doesn't stop us from explaining the wisdoms behind the hukum of ahkamat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can always explain to them, and this has been done by the prophets as well as our Salaf, our great Imam, Aimma Karam and scholars. They have done the same. They have used wisdom. They have explained the wisdoms behind these instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I mean, the balanced approach, of course, that is gonna be there. It's a universal argument that the miraculousness of Quran, the mu'jiza of Quran, and the challenge of the Quran, that nobody can bring something like it. That's gonna be there. Nobody would argue against it, but there are other tools available at our hand to better convey the message, to the general public and to the intellectual elite of the world, and we have to do it. Yes. So interesting. Yes. Exactly. So this is very important aspect that we are discussing right now, that we have to see what is the current social contract of the Muslim world. We have figured out in the discussion, during the discussion, we have explained some of the clauses of that social contract. One clause is the Mahdi would come and just fix everything. Other one is that it's written in Qadr, in the book of fate, and not that we can't do anything. They call it Jabriya, like this is the Jabriya stance. So these kind of concepts. Another concept which I can think of is intercession. The concept of intercession. That there will be hereafter, there will be day of judgment, and there will be the judgment by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by checking our sins and whatever. But then there is an intercession by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that is guaranteed. That guarantees us that we will be in Jannah. Khalas. So we will not go to hell at all. So this is a kind of this is also written, especially in Pakistan, maybe other parts of the Muslim world as well. This is also another clause, and I can bet on it. It is also a part of our social contract. And of course, if there is no fear of hereafter, the fear of hell, the fear of the punishment, the actions can't be corrected. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran about the Jews, that they were the best of the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them fadila or fadaltukum ala alameen. But then what happened? And the prophets were sent to train them, to mentor them. But what happened after that is that they used to even kill prophets. They used to abandon their worships, and they used to commit zina and adultery and all these things. So Allah says in Surah Al Imran that ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ قَالُوا لَن تَمَسَّنَا النَّارُ إِلَّا أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَةً. So the scholars, this became, I mean, in the language that we are talking now, we can say that this became part of the social contract, that we will not go to hell. Yes, we will go to hell, but only for a few days. Few days, and after that we will enjoy. But what I say when I discuss this with people here, that our social contract in this regard is even better than them. They still had this concept that they would go to hell for some days, but people here, they say we are confirmed. We have the guarantee to go to Jannah. So this is the clause. As we can see, then how do you see it? I mean, this is another very important aspect of it, that it discourages any will to do good, any will to improve yourself.
Well, I mean, interesting enough, as you said, the Quran reports what some Jews were saying to the Prophet Muhammad, that the fire only touches for a few days, and they say, well, do you have a promise from Allah for this? And the issue is that people might go to Jahannam for a limited time as if they're true believers. But one issue is, how do you know you're a true believer? Because even the Sahabas who were worried that are we munafiqeen, we're worried about this, exactly. Right? Which is a sign of faith, of a true believer, that they are worried about, am I actually a munafiq? Because simply saying I believe in God and what have you, but do you really actually truly believe? That's one issue. The second issue is you don't want to go to Jahannam for even one day, and plus you don't know, it might be millions or billions of years. Yes. Yeah, you'll come out. But
some of the scholars say that one day there is equal to 50,000 years of your days here. I mean, on the basis of some of the Quran's ayats.
So yeah, sure, you might come out eventually, but it's going to be a very.
Yes.
I say, look, I'll tell you what. Just put your hand next to a nice Shinwari barbecue. It's all right, I've been eating, very tasty. Just put it in and see if you can last for that. If that's okay, you'd accept all the sins you're doing in your life for a week of just that. And that's just normal fire. So, and that's just us at the size that we're at, not the size that we'll have much more receptive will be bigger, with more, with our nervous system much more sensitive. Do you want that, really? That's the issue. And there's one thing I actually forgot to mention before, was the idea that, well, we only care about next life and about this life. And the problem with this is that we were born into this life to do amal salihat, right? So the Quran says to those who believe, right, and do amal salihat, so aminu, as those who believe and do amal salihat. So it's a two thing. You must believe and do good deeds, and you do good deeds in this world, right? You show mercy to the poor in this world. You help out your parents in this world, right? You work to provide for your family in this world. So we're meant to be seeking the hereafter through this world.
Through this world. That's why this world is also important, because everything that you do in this world, you'll have to, of course, face the consequences.
And the Quran says, do not neglect this portion of your worldly life. It seemingly to specifically target those who say, I'm going to be divorced from this worldly life and just go into a cave somewhere and do ihtiqaf forever. It's like, no, that's not the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. And of course, the Prophet Muhammad said that those who don't follow his sunnah are not from him, basically. And his sunnah was
and this is a famous hadith where companions came to him and told him that, okay, we will. One of them said, I will not marry in my whole life. The other one said that I will keep praying every night from now onwards. The other one, the third one says that I will fast every day. So he said this there, that man raghiba sunnati falaysa minni. I mean, whoever abandons my sunnah is not from this ummah, not from me. I'm not from this ummah. So yes, these are the things, these are the concepts that are there in Quran Sunnah, very clear.
Roadblocks,
very clear. But they are not there in the social contract. They're not there in the current social contract in our society. Whatever is there is something else. It's not from the Quran and Sunnah. And this is
these are the roadblocks.
Roadblocks. These are the roadblocks that are preventing us from doing it. Just building upon this concept that there are certain roadblocks that are preventing any kind of action, but there are some other roadblocks that are preventing the collective action. Like the people, when they start practicing Islam, they are good in doing individual deeds like salah and fasting and going to Umrah or Hajj. So they are doing it. Maybe they have changed their lives from the social perspective as well, but there is no collective action. And we can see, if deducing from the wisdom that we are just discussing now, that there's a huge confusion regarding the collective obligations of ummah. And whenever we discuss it here in Pakistani society, they call it fard kifaya. So because the classical terminology for the collective obligations was fard kifaya. Fard kifaya here means nafal. I mean, this is something we don't have to worry about that. This is the kind of understanding that we have in our society. Like if we say this is fard kifaya, oh, okay, khalas. So this is not the responsibility at all. But this is not the understanding of the fard kifaya. The understanding is that this is the collective responsibility. If this is not fulfilled, everyone in the society will be sinful. So this is a kind of understanding that is there in the Quran and Sunnah, but it is not in the social contract. So it has prevented the collective action really, badly. Impacted this collective action really severely and badly. That's why we can see that individual good deeds are happening, but the collective good deeds, which you call it like Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar and all these kind of collective actions, people are really not interested in those. And this is a big problem, because if a society, any community, if there is no collective will to do something for the betterment of society, how would that society survive? How would that society get out of the misery and problems that society is in? So how do you see that? Because this is another important aspect of it.
Well, fard kifaya is the obligation of sufficiency. If it's not being fulfilled, then it becomes a sin on everybody. There's a hadith saying that if a person dies without a bay'ah on their neck, and this is all the classical scholars have said, to the imam of the jama'ah, so the one jama'ah of the Muslims, If there isn't, and they die the death of Jahiliyyah. So this should be very scary for all of us, because these are big sins. So it's because we think that, well, if I can't do something easily within a day, then it's possible. Which that really is the real roadblock in the Muslim world. If it's not easy to do and quick to do, then it might as well be impossible. Whereas the West, when they are led by a purpose in life, a false one, but it still functions as a purpose for them, they say, okay, if I can't do it, then I'll make a plan and I'll see about I'm going to create the right conditions to make it possible.
To make it possible, yes. Exactly. So I can remember a verse in Quran, which is quoted by most of the Muslims in the wrong context, but it I think leads to this situation this condition that you said, and this verse is very famous verse, is that La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha.
Yeah.
That Allah doesn't burden a soul, a person beyond capacity. So people, the understanding of the people here is that this is something which is on each and every individual to assess, self-assess. It's about the self-assessment, but it is not about the self-assessment. That the Mufassirin, they have said about this verse that this is not about the self-assessment. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is saying that in this verse that I have given Sharia to you, I have made certain deeds obligated certain deeds on you. Do not complain on the day of judgment that I don't have the capacity to do it. The capacity has been given to you before this obligation was bestowed upon you. So this was the understanding of our Aslaf about this verse. But the way people have interpreted now is that everybody is doing self-assessment. So there's one young guy, I met him. He even said that it's very difficult for me to pray 5 times. So please don't judge me on that, because La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha.
Yes.
There is no end to this. I mean, anyone can claim that, okay, I have this capacity and that's it. But who are you to judge? So exactly, this is the condition, I think, that is based on these kinds of concepts, that I can't do beyond that. It's just not possible.
I mean, as you said about collective action, and to come back to that point you put to me. So this relates to the social contracts, what we first started talking about, which is how do you change it? Because one individual can't change it. If someone goes to a public choke, right, and says in this public area, we need to have Islam Sharia, here's what it looks like, I have a book, I have all these things, details, let's do it. People just say, okay, that's just one person. They might even say, it's great what you're doing, brother, Allah protect you and aid you. Inshallah, this will happen one day. And then they'll go back to their lives and that's it. Because the social contract exists in the mind of the people. Even if you yourself don't agree with it, but it's still in your mind as this is what I know everyone expects and is doing. So the only way to change that is for people to see that actually there's a collective in society, a group, movement, or a collection of
consensus,
which are saying, guys, everyone, we're all here. Let's agree to change this social contract and do things differently. From this day forward, we expect that this is going to be done this way, and we will not tolerate any other way. And if people see that groups and movements are calling to this. Now, here's the thing. You might have a group that calls to it already, and they're already like Jamaat Islami and so on. They've always called for an Islamic state, although I'm not too sure the level of detail they've gone into about what it looks like, but I presume
this has not been done. I can assure you that
not very much.
It has not been done across the Muslim world. I don't see the topic that we're discussing, that there is any analysis of the current social contracts of the Muslim societies. And what should be the social contract of a society, an ideal Muslim society. And if this I mean, if we can do this, then we can have a movement starting for this very purpose. That okay, let's discuss with all these factions of religious factions of the society as well as the other stakeholders of the society, and let's agree upon certain principles, certain clauses of that social contract. So you're right, and unless until we have consensus over these clauses of this social contract, this is not gonna penetrate in the minds and hearts of the people. So this is really important. This is not being done. I don't know if you can see anywhere happening this happening. I don't see that this has happened. So all these movements like Jamaat Islami, as you said, they say that we want to establish Islam, but that's it. I mean, there is no discussion. There's no intellectual basis provided for that. The justification provided for that. Why this should be the case. I mean, why it is a better option, better alternative for us as a nation to go for. So this is not being done.
Exactly. So what needs to happen is, like, even if a group, even just a group calls to it, people just say, okay, that's just one faction in society. So it has to be more than just simply you get a bunch of people together and people see you calling to it. It has to be a comprehensive dawah to society, maybe with multiple groups coordinating, or maybe just one successful group, whatever this case might be. But it has to get to what I call a tipping point, where people look around and see that, oh, are we all agreeing to do this now? Okay, then let's do this now. That's then the social contract gets changed, right? It's when people see. It's like maybe to use a different analogy, which is when a coup occurs against a leader or have you. Usually it's one general, couple generals, and a couple parts of the army. A lot of the rest of the army actually doesn't necessarily follow that coup. Many of them, if you've ever noticed in different coups, they actually are doing nothing. They're not stepping in to defend, nor are they stepping in to aid the coup. What they're doing is they're actually waiting to see where the people go, right? What happened to Erdogan in Turkey? A coup was against him. Normally that would have worked. But suddenly the people went out en masse saying that we're not going to accept this. This is a red line for us. We're not going to accept it. And then the rest of the Turkish army, who were just really watching to see where is it going. Okay, the people going on the side of Erdogan. Okay, we'll go to his side as well. It's waiting to see what is everyone else doing. And that's the issue. We have to get to that tipping point, right, where people say, where's it going to go? And as you know from a narration about when it was Musab bin Umair going to Yathrib, and the beautiful, I think, there's a beautiful hikmah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed that it wasn't the Prophet Muhammad that went to Yathrib first.
Yes.
And it wasn't him that did the da'wah for 1 year. It was a simple human being who's not a prophet, right? I mean, not simple, but as in like a pious, but he's a human who's not a prophet.
Common man, yes.
Yeah, common man, so to speak, a non-prophet person. So he went to Yathrib, the dawah for 1 year, appointed 12 nuqab, different captains to different to manage different areas. To disseminate the dawah. So in a way, it was like a group or a jamaat. They were there, and of course, they already had approval to preach by some of the nobles that met the Prophet Muhammad. So they had approval to do so. And after 1 year, as the narration says, there wasn't a single house where Islam wasn't being talked about. Every single house, whether they believed in it or not, it was being talked about everywhere. It had spread. It was like, oh, this is the case. And then the tipping point was, well, they see that people were ready for it. And then as the Prophet Muhammad arrived, that was like, okay, this is now, he's our imam, so to speak. He's our leader. And we're going to follow him because we're going to implement Islam here. So that's the issue, is that you could say that the tipping point is when people see that everyone else, or not everyone, but the majority or a significant portion of the population they've moved their red lines to it's going to be the Sharia, it's going to be our national interest, going to be the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and our societal interest will be that
certain
too.
kind of consensus in the society, and it's not easy to achieve. But what we have discussed is the recipe of a great movement, that recipe to create a great movement that is necessary, that is the need of the hour. So inshallah, we'll be working on that, but this was an interesting point, and that's what I thought about a lot after that once we discussed it in our last podcast. But this is the really one of the most important endeavors to look upon, and Muslim world is not really looking into this. This is really important. As you said, rightly said that this is not going to happen just by few individuals speaking about it. Nobody was going to change the social contract in this way. It has to be a broader consensus in the society, and of course we have to do this first beforehand, and then we have to spread this dawah, and this social contract should be should be made part of the curriculum, and so that it becomes the fabric of it enters the fabric of the society. And this is where as you said, rightly said, that there will be a tipping point from there onwards, that this would become a social contract, and the red lines would be redrafted according to the new social contract.
And then what you'll see will happen is through various means. So it might be a certain party leading the way, and then certain commanders, generals, politicians support it, and
they
then
will all support, yes.
And
but
then
of course, there has to be an active effort to reach those people and to tell them, okay, do you agree with that? If you agree with that, just support us. I mean, this is what we're trying to achieve. So the consensus building.
It must be at all levels of society,
all levels of society,
from the poor to the very top,
to the elite. Yes,
commanders, generals, judges, lawyers, mayors, administrators, all the way down to street sweepers, so to speak. Everyone must be targeted for the da'wah and invited, and inshallah, as I said, and it must be done by coordinated movements, because as individuals, again, we won't be able to change the social contract, even if we all agreed with each other.
Yes, that's great advice. One last thing, and then we will conclude, inshallah. There's another movement across the Muslim world, that because ideology is, in order to convey the ideology of the Muslim world, or to make the ideology penetrate their hearts and minds, is a difficult endeavor. It's very difficult. It's perhaps not possible. Some people say, some of the scholars, they say it's just not possible in this modern or postmodern society. So instead, what we can do is that let's try to inject this civilizational Islam into the lives of the Muslim world. What they mean by this is that there's an Islamic civilizational identity, and it's easier for us to convey these the hallmarks of this civilizational identity to the people. People can relate easily to this, and they would become closer to Islam in this way. This has happened in Turkey. They have done this very successfully, and you can see that people, they are talking about the Khilafah, they're talking about the Islamic rule, but you'll find that these people, they're doing it not out of their commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's just to have their identity roots rediscovered. So kind of thing. This kind of thing is happening in some of the societies in the Muslim world. Debate in Pakistan as well. This debate has arrived in Pakistan as well, and this has been discussed that this is very difficult to convey the ideology and to convince everyone on the ideology. Perhaps it's not possible. So let's talk about the civilizational identity, and let's discuss with the different factions of society to agree upon these things. But these things, the way people wear, the dress, the food, they say that these are the hallmarks of the Islamic civilization. The culture, the food, all this, the buildings, the way the buildings are constructed. So all these are part of this civilizational identity. So let's convey this civilizational identity and these and the serene features of the civilizational identity to the people, so that people can come closer to Islam. But there's a problem with that as well. So how do you see that? Because this is happening in the Muslim world, especially in Turkey. It was being done in Qatar when I was there, and they were discussing there is a civilizational Islam. Even this Noman Ali Khan, he has one of the talks there in Qatar. He talked about that there is a civilizational Islam. So why there's so much obsession about the civilizational Islam instead of the fundamental Islam?
Well, so, I mean, you're right. It's like calling to an empty shell. I'll give you an egg, but we just want the shell. We don't want the actual. You don't eat the shell. You eat the bit in the middle one. And basically, Islam is a deen. It's transmitted in the form of ideas and concepts. And it resides in the mind, so to speak, in the human, the concepts and ideas, not the styles of clothing. I mean, sure, I wear a topi. There's no Islamic requirement for me to wear this style of hat or what have you. So obviously, some Hanafi fiqh say when you pray, have your head covered, but it could be any kind of covering. That's why Pakistan has distinct covering, Arab countries distinct head covering, Nigeria distinct head covering. It doesn't matter the styles. And let me burst the bubble of people who say there's a kind of in essence a cultural style to Islam. There isn't. Let's look at the moon and star. It's actually a Persian imperial symbol that was borrowed. They think borrowed, maybe possibly popularized at the time of Muawiyah, when he was Khalifa, to simply emphasize the ruling regimes. In a way, they've taken over from the Persians, and it's an imperial symbol that was taken over and used to mean a regime that's very powerful, maybe. Or some people say it was a Turkic military symbol later on. It's got nothing to do with Islam. The Prophet Muhammad never had a moon star symbol. The Sahabas need, obviously, until Muawiyah's time, but it's after the Prophet Muhammad's time. But the first four Khulafa never knew about moons and stars and things. It's got nothing to do with Islam at all. The flag of the Prophet Muhammad had the Shahada
on it. Yes.
Right, that's it. That's our flag. Nothing else. That's the symbol of Islam.
Symbol of Islam.
Right? Words and message. Right? Let's look at domed mosques. It was from they call it the Eastern Roman Empire.
Yes,
that's why the Hagia Sophia has domes on it. It was already their style. Muslims just said, hey, that's a good way to make vaunted ceilings with high walls, and you cover up from the rain. That's a good way of structure.
And also, this structure also supports the acoustics that are required for azan. So let's adopt that.
Yeah. Also, so you can hear the Imam lead the prayer. You can hear when he does takbir and so on, and the taslim. So we want to hear that at the back. So it's a good. This is just, we borrowed it. I mean, sure. Like arches, we took Roman arches, but then we made it slightly tipped in the middle because we thought our engineers discovered maybe that it had more structural support. It put the weight better distributed on the sides. But the famous tipped Islamic arches, they call it, it was just a structural design. It's like, okay, that's better for improving weight distribution. That's it. What else? I mean, jalabiyas and things like this. I mean, apart from the fact that, yes, it is somewhat from the Arabic culture of the desert. But it was just, okay, it's an efficient dress up covering the awrah. But hey, the shalwar kameez in Pakistan is also, and I'm grown to quite love it actually. It's very comfortable and it covers the awrah. And in a way, it's more practical because you can run in it, right? Yes. Whereas the jalabiya is hard to run. It's hard to run in jalabiya. So these things are not from any particular Islamic requirement at all. So it has nothing to do with Islam. And we might as well say hummus is part of Islam because it's in the Middle East and Muslims eat it. And no, it's ridiculous. So, even maybe like styles of hijab differ in different areas. Some of the times of Sahaba, some of the women wore a type of a turban that covered their awrah, but instead of just one cloth, it was a turban because it's good for reducing heat and presenting the sun directly on you. So The point is that anything you point to that is culturally, you say this is cultural Islam or what have you, is actually not from Islam. It was it was inventions later on, borrowing we took from other people. Even you might call the Islamic armor, like Salahuddin would have a helmet that was like pointed at the top or whatever. It's actually a Persian military helmet. It was just good. It's good because in the heat of battle when you're fighting basically, and people are flailing swords around, the enemy are flailing their swords around. If you had a smooth helmet, the sword you could bounce off their head, and you could just slide it down and someone will hit the person next to them. But if you little pointed thing on top, it gets caught, and someone's trying to slash it. So they can't slash it down and hit your person to next to you. Anyway, this is small points, but these are all practical things that were brought.
So that's the problem, as you're saying, that
to solve practical problems.
The ones who we associate these things with Islam, anybody can challenge that these are not from Islam, and these are not actually from Islam. So this is not something which is in the Quran and Sunnah. It is something that is mubah. I mean, wherever Islam went, their cultures and their practices were somehow, intermingled with Islamic. Or Arabic, we can say the culture with Arabic culture. So this thing
and heavy Persian culture,
and of course Persian culture as well. Yes. So this what we can say is that this can't be that solid foundation on which to build the social contract of a society. Yes. But as a step one, we can say, okay, maybe if people can come towards Islam, as in Turkey, we have seen that there is a rejuvenation of Islam, but this Islam is not the ideological Islam. It's what they call it, the civilizational Islam. As a step one, maybe it's acceptable, but this shouldn't be the goal or the ultimate destination.
It's just more, I mean, maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's because it's associated people's minds with Islam. And so if people see more Islamic symbols around, maybe it helps them to think that, well, our society is becoming more Islamic.
Yes.
Right? But that is only a superficial supporting thing. It shouldn't be the main thrust. The main thrust is the ideas of Islam. That's all it. Islam is a message, not an outward appearance.
So it's very important that it can give some kind of support to the overall cause, but if this is made the destination, that there's a problem in it, and there's a huge problem in it. This going to really hit us back in the long run. One of my friends, he was there in Turkey, and he was with top businessmen in Kesari district. So he found a very interesting thing. He said that they were discussing Khilafah. They were discussing that, we want this Khilafah to be revived and everything. This was being discussed. But then when the food was served, the champagne was there as well. So because this is what the civilization Islam doesn't care about. The civilization Islam cares only about the symbols. It doesn't care about the actual deed or practice on Islamic principles. So this is the problem, and it's gonna be a bigger problem if this becomes the destiny, and this becomes the destination of all the endeavors. What we have discussed is that Islam is an ideology, and it has its roots clearly defined in Quran and Sunnah, and this is on the basis of which we must draft our social contract. This ought to be social contract, and we must try to have a consensus on that across the society, so that we can start building support systems towards that ought to be society. So I think this is clear. Alhamdulillah, this has been discussed in detail today in this session. And Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for your time.
Thank you for
we wish you a great journey to Sialkot, now as you're going to Sialkot. After that, Lahore, and of course you will be here one week inshallah. Or so. After that, you will be going back to UK.
Inshallah.
I hope you enjoyed the stay here and learned a lot of new things, as we've discussed some of the things that you learned here in Pakistan. So alhamdulillah, any any of those who haven't listened to or watched the debates of Sheikh Abdullah Andlusi, you can always go to his channel. Great debates, highly recommended. You can learn a lot from them. And of course, as Sheikh is going, we'll keep in touch, inshallah, and we'll also discuss some courses that we can jointly offer, inshallah, about the Western civilization, about the Islamic social contract. Again, there's another course that's a homework for you as well, to formalize a course, a detailed course on the Islamic social contract, so that we can educate people on that. We can make them understand the fundamentals of the social contract.
What the system we want to bring back would look like.
Yes,
with modern technology.
They call it the vision of tomorrow. Of course, the vision of tomorrow based on that social contract. This is a research project as well as an educational project as well. But first we have to do some research. Of course, we will do together, inshallah, to figure out the details of this, and inshallah we will also offer this course later on once we finalize things about that. So inshallah it will be a collaboration with Sheikh after that as well, and we'll keep in touch, and we'll keep bringing Sheikh to you, to the audience. If you have any questions for the Sheikh, you can always post to us, and we can get the answers from him. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that, so that you can get the notifications as these podcasts happen. Jazakumul khair.